Well, here we are back on another beautiful November day. I'm thrilled that the weather's holding up this well. So that allowed me to get out here and put preservative on the track. So I've got that done. It'll be dry in about an hour, and then it'll be ready to go for this amount of track. I've got another box coming in pretty soon. And inside this box was a little sheet of paper, and it was instructions on how to install it. So now I know how I'm supposed to install it. That's very convenient. And it's actually pretty simple. All I got to do is drill an 1/8-inch hole, and you do it on one side of the positive, and then you go a few feet down, you do it on the other side of the positive, and zigzag, just like I did with the original Menards track. And for this, I need to use number 4 screws is what they recommend, which I don't have. I have plenty of number 8. I've got hundreds of those, but I'll have to order some number 4 screws to secure it. And I'm not going to secure it very tightly. I'm going to keep it so it has a little bit of flex to it. And yeah, so that will be very easy to install. Now, I've decided to do just a single track all the way along the route. I'm not going to do double track because I don't want to deal with the problems I had trying to get around these curves with 2 tracks and having it, off the track and everything. So I'm just going to do a single track all the way down, and I am going to go ahead and put turnouts in here. Now, the nice thing about turnouts with the Lionel style track, because it's AC power, the middle track, the center rail, is positive, the 2 outer ones are neutral, so it doesn't matter which direction the track comes in. So that electrical problem is dealt with. I don't have to worry about that. So I don't need any little power switches on either side. I don't have to worry about hooking all that up. It'll just work. On the other hand, I do need to figure out a way to switch the turnouts, because it's got to come in at this end and then go back through at this end. And if the track isn't switched properly, it'll just derail. Now, when I used to work at Mountain Park, and I ran the miniature railroad there, they had a layout very similar to what I've got here. They had the station, and it was a turn like this, and then it went down. And actually, it's actually more accurate like this. It went around their station, then came this way, and then it got to a tunnel, just like this, and then it came out of the tunnel and went through a turnaround like this, and then went back through the tunnel and came around and went back to the station. So it was very, very similar to this setup that I've got now. And they didn't have a switch anywhere along this system. They had the turnouts, but the train just seamlessly went in. When it came here, it went around that way, and then it went right back in, and it never derailed. Same over by the station. So I know there's a way to do it for regular railroads. There's got to be a way to do it for model railroads, to have a turnout where you don't need to switch it back and forth, where it'll just come in one direction, it'll go one way, and the other direction it goes the other way. So I've got to solve that problem. I've got to figure that out. And if I can do that, then that's perfect. I'll have no problem at all. But I think doing single rail along this, because I really don't intend to run 2 trains simultaneously. I mean, maybe I will in the future. Maybe I can expand it. But for now, I think just getting this thing up and running is the priority. And running a single rail will be easier to set up. It'll be easier to maintain. All I got to do is solve that turnout conundrum, whether I need to switch it or not. And even if I do need to switch it, I've got plenty of power in that transformer to do that. So wait for the other set of track to come in, and then as long as this weather holds up, it's supposed to be like this now for the next few days. Then we're going to get rain, and I'm not sure what it's going to do after that. It might stay mild like this, or it might suddenly get very, very cold. I don't know. But even so, if it gets cold, that doesn't stop me from putting in the track. I just needed the warmth to get all of the preservative on. So now that that's done, let's see if I can actually get things installed for Thanksgiving. That would be amazing. Yes? Right there. Sonia's back. Another beautiful day. I was able to get the rest of the GarGraves track all coated, so that's all set. And this track, a little funky, but I got it cheap. 10 pieces for 57 bucks or something. And you can see there are pieces missing here. Some pieces are cracked. Track's slightly bent, but this will be my spare because I ordered a brand new box of 10 more, and that should be all that I need to do the entire layout. And I still have to order the turnouts. I'm still not sure how exactly I'm going to approach that, but I'm going to consult with Sonia, and maybe she'll have some answers. All right, so this is going to be the track with the power in the station, and I've decided to reuse the Marks connector, and I think it's going to work. It's a little bit loose, so I think what I'm going to do is make little bends in these so that they hold, because the slots in the track here are a little wider than they were in the Menards. It doesn't hold as tightly, so I'm just going to squeeze these a little more. You can see I squeezed these a little bit to try to tighten it up, but it really didn't do much. So I'm going to do that, and I've soldered these on so that they're going to be nice and secure there, so I don't have to worry about that. And the next thing I have to do is drill the holes in all the track. So what they recommend in the GarGraves instructions is to do the first, 20th, 40th, and last ties, drill an 1/8 inch hole and alternate back and forth like that. And it turns out the 20th tie is at 12 inches exactly. So I just have a ruler and I just go 12 inches and then I put 12 inches, that's the 40th. And I'm not going to do the last tie of each. I'm going to do the third in, because what they say is if you're like bending the track, then what you need to do is take off the first 2 ties. So if I did that, then I wouldn't have a hole in the first tie. So yeah, I'm going to go 3 in and drill, and then the 20th, 40th, and 3rd from last. So let's get started on that. What the heck am I doing, may you ask? Well, I've got time before the rest of the track and pieces come in. Oh, hello there. So I decided to clean up the track bed a little bit. It had all these warts on it from where the screws were in. Because with the composite wood, when you take the screw out, it just lifts up all the plastic around there and it makes a really rough surface. And since the new track is much lower along the surface than the Menards was, I'm just cleaning all this up while I have a little time on my hands. And I tell you, I've always gotten cold out. Big difference from the other day. anyway, back to work. I just got in the GarGraves connector. It's actually really nice. And it has 3 terminals here, 1 for each track, but on the back, they allow you to jump it if you want, which is what I did. So I put a jumper on the 2 outside rails, and so that way, that should give me really good connection all the way through across the track. And I did get a new wire. The other wire I had was aluminum wire, so I switched. I found I had this heavy duty. This is actually from Mountain Park, like 50 years ago. But this is heavy duty copper solid wire. So I'm going to use that for the transformer, and that will hook up here to these 2 terminals. And then all I got to do is just connect from there. And I did go ahead and coat these with preservatives, so that was the last of that. So I also got the switches in, so let's take a look at those. All right, here is the GarGraves switch that I got in. It's actually pretty darn nice. It does say, I've seen this online, it does say that you need to jump a wire from here over to here and over to here, because you have the break in between where there's no connectivity. So to keep the power flowing, you have to make a jumper from one to the other. So I can do that. That's not a big deal. My concern was how the switch was going to operate. I wasn't quite sure. And it's a manual throw. So you have this little handle here, and by throwing the handle, it moves the points back and forth like it should. But I really don't want that. So I actually, with my other one, I removed that piece. It's actually fairly easy to take off. You just pry out the little rivets and it pops right off. And it's moves so smoothly without that throw switch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a spring on here and drill a little hole here and attach the spring there, so it's always pulled in this direction. That will allow the train to pass through on the straight track and go around the loop. And then when it comes back here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to design and 3D print a little gate. And when the train pushes against the gate, it's going to pull, and it's going to pull through a series of levers I'm going to have to arrange. It's going to end up pushing it back this way. And when the train finally passes through the whole thing, then it will release and spring back, and it'll be ready for the train to come through this way again. I didn't know exactly how I was going to be able to do that to get it to come back, but I think that will work out just fine, because once the train is in here, even if this comes back, the wheels are not going to let it completely close. It'll stay open a little bit to let the wheels pass, so it shouldn't derail. But I'm going to have that gate probably right around here. And so when it swings open and the train finally passes through for the last time, when it closes, then the wheel will be here, so the wheel will pass and then it'll snap back. So I got to experiment with that a little bit, but this works so smoothly. It's a really nice mechanism. So I should be able to get that working and not have to worry about manually switching anything. Okay, one part of the task is done. Now, I had seen some videos online of how to connect these pieces of track, since the center rail stops here, center rail stops here, center rail stops here, and if that happened, the train would roll over it and just stop. So you need to connect all of these. That's what's in the instruction manual. And the videos I saw had this elaborate thing of soldering a wire, running it underneath the track bed over to here and back up. And I thought, there's got to be a better way. And yes, there is. All I did is you can see right here, I took some copper wire that was shielded, and I ran it into the cut piece, since there was a little hole there, and it fit perfectly. Slid it in there, and then slid it in there, so that connects these two pieces. Over here, I have a piece that connects at the crack that they made to bend these. I put that in there, and that connects these pieces, and then this piece is connected to this piece. So we got continuity from here, straight through here, and straight through there. And it's nice and hidden. No need to run anything under the track bed, so that's great. I've got my little springs here. So these, I'll need to drill a little hole in here and then figure out how to attach these. There is a hole in this. I'm not sure if I can get the spring in there or not, but I'll figure something out and get the springs attached here. And then this piece will be ready to go. And then I just got to do the same for this one. Okay, there's the spring. Not bad. And works perfectly. Might be a little tight. Well, there might be a little too much tension on there, but I'll have to wait and see. But it certainly springs back well. So, all right, so that's solved. That was much easier than I thought it was going to be. So, and I got that one to put on the other one, and I got to finish wiring up the other one. The switches will be ready to go. And then eventually I'll have to make that gate and see how all that works. Another beautiful November day, and look at that. The entire station is done. It took me about 15 minutes. This track is amazing. So this turnout's all set, ready to go. I got the turnout at the other end installed as well. Coated them with no-ox. In fact, I'm coating the entire track with no-ox just to be safe, so don't get into any problems there. I have the wire run through, and this track just went down so easy. It's really nice. And bending this is a breeze. I made my little jig over here. It's just simple 3-foot curve, and you just put the track on here, you bend it to the curve, and it bends no problem. Then I've been using, I have a few extra little ties here left over in case I need them. And I've been using my new cutoff saw to cut the track, and it is just a dream. It works so well. Because, again, this had very different lengths after I had bent it, and so I just take it downstairs to the chop saw or the cutoff saw, and it just cuts that nice and clean. So I think this was a good decision. I should have done this from the beginning, but what did I know? It's all a learning experience. So station is done, and I think I'm going to do this turn next, since I know how to curve the track, and it's going to be tricky because of how tight the curve is around there. But I'm going to do that to make sure that I'm comfortable with bending the track. And then once that's done, this is a very light curve, so that's not going to be a problem. And then it's just straight run all the way down there. And like I said, this track just goes together so easily. And I am leaving, I don't know if you can see it in here, but I am leaving a little gap between where the track connects, about an 1/8 inch, 1/16 to an 1/8 inch on each section, so it gives a little room to expand in the summer. And that should be okay, because the ties aren't going to move since the track can slide in the ties. So the track will expand, ties will stay in place. So that should work out okay. Keeping my fingers crossed, of course. Who knows? I want you to not stumble on the rocks here. So yeah, so beginning of the new track so far. Look at that. What a beautiful turn. A little funky right around here. I'm hoping the train doesn't have trouble with that. It's a little tight in that one spot, but this track bends so nicely and I'm able to cut it with that cut-off saw and fit it perfectly in here. You know, just enough of a gap in here to allow for the expansion. It took me a little longer than I thought because I was still sort of feeling my way around this, trying to figure out how I was going to do it. But once I got the hang of it, it's actually much easier than the Menards track was. So, on to the next part down here, and this time I'll show you how I bend the track. Not that exciting, but I'll show you how I bend the track and how I use the cut-off saw there to get the pieces I need. The only drawback I'm finding in this cold weather is the no-ox is starting to harden up in the cold. So I'm keeping it in my pocket to keep it liquid more or less so I can brush it on easier. But anyway, all I do is I go over to the section where I want the curve to be, and I just put a little kink in it at that point where I know I need to make the curve. So this one I know is going to have to curve out of that turn there, and then it's going to straighten out. So all I do is I just put it here. I got to take actually what I often do is I just push them in instead of taking off. And you'll notice what's going to happen. These are going to change in angle, so I'm going to have to use the chop saw for that. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend like this. Then I'll go back and I'll check it against that. And that's really all it is. I mean, this thing works really nice. And I know it's going to go straight across there once it's curved, so I just got to check and make sure this is enough of a curve. And then once that's done, then I got to pull these pins and then go ahead and go to the chop saw. Okay, so now that I have the curve the way I want it, you'll notice, like I was saying, these are at a weird angle. I'm just going to cut them straight, and then the same thing here. I just got to cut these off straight, and that will take care of that. And this is my little cut-off saw. I like it. It works really well. First, I got to pull the pins out. I won't need those. All right, I do need them, but I don't want to cut them. So put these. Always wear your hearing protection. It can be loud. All right. And now is get that nice and straight. It tends to mush up the holes in the track, so you gotta ream it out so the pins will go in again. There we are. I'll put the pins back in. Well, why don't I cut this one off? Cut this out. Let's cut this off. All right, now to go install it once I get the pins in. If I had gone with GarGraves track from the start, this probably all would have been done a year ago. It's just amazing how easily this goes down. It is just delightful. And right here, here's the straight run. I assume this will take me like 20 minutes at the most. And then I've got a few light curves, straight run, a few light curves, straight run, and then the big turn. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this all done today, but it's looking hopeful. We shall see. It's lunchtime. And look at this. Incredible. This track is just a joy to work with. It forms really smoothly, goes together really easily. I am so thrilled. It's another matter whether it's going to work, so we'll have to test it, but all I've got left to do is the straight run and the turnaround here, and it is done. And it will be done by the end of today. Hallelujah. The final sections of track. Just gotta screw this down, put a little no-wax on it, and it's done. And you know what the next step is? Running the train. I can't wait. And we still have daylight left.